About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on the roads with dense bushes and trees on either side, the real creepy ones you see in a lot of movies. Anyway, I had been driving for about 45 minutes and I was starting to get really tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired out of nowhere? Well, yeah, that happened to me. I knew it wasn't gonna last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park safely and sleep. Anyway, after it became clear to me that I wasn't gonna find a place to pull up and my tiredness wasn't going away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road under the grass behind some bushes to try to hide my car from anybody else who was gonna go past. The roads weren't empty. I came across another car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22 and then fell asleep. Sometime later, I was woken up by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock. It was 11:50. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and now it was 12:40. This time, it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car, but why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rear view mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now, at the time, I thought it was the damn hook killer. You know, the one that scratched the couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate. Screw that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a flipping car parked off to the side of the road with the driver's side open. I slowed down just to look to see if anyone was in there, and there wasn't. Then I looked in my rear view mirror. I didn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes sprinting around the corner and he's screaming at me, shouting stuff like,
Hey, you, get the hell out of your car now!
I said hell no and I sped off. I never saw the guy again. What's the moral of the story? Don't sleep on the side of a deserted road. Before we get onto story 2, please do consider subscribing and pressing that like button. And yeah, let's get into story 2. A few summers ago, I went for a bike ride around midnight with a friend. We went our separate ways at the end of the evening and I had about 2 blocks to ride back by myself. Because of the construction, I had to ride on the sidewalk, but the streets were dead. But it wasn't a problem until right where I was about to turn left onto my street. There was this man walking by himself, maybe in his 40s, a little scruffy but not homeless. The sidewalk was narrow and I didn't want to freak him out, so when I got about 6 feet behind him, I said, "Hey, behind you," and he turned around and gave me this super angry look. I turned down to my street and he started to follow me, literally screaming how I was an idiot and he was gonna kill me and all that. I live right off the corner. I didn't want him to figure that out, so I decided to do a loop around the block. But that's not the scariest part. The scary part is when I looped back around and looked down the street. I saw him standing on my porch staring out at the street like the guy knew I lived there. He saw me ride by again, but he didn't say anything. I ended up going back to the friends, but my bike got stolen from the alleyway by the house 2 days later. I wonder who did it. I had awesome parents who would let me sleep in the living room on the weekend nights when I was very young because my sister was a light sleeper and I could stay up until dawn. But of course, I always ended up sleeping on the couch because Nick at night made me tired. So one night I wake up to this prickly feeling like an instinct, just bolted into a sitting position and stared out the window. We lived in rural Georgia, so you can imagine the magnitude of trees. In perfect light cast from the moon, I see a silhouette of someone in this tree. The family dog dashes to the window and is snarling into the glass. Terrified, I run into my parents' room and try to explain to my parents that there is a strange person outside. Dad grabs something defensive and darts outside with the dogs to beat the wax off the hothead. I tremble in my mum's arms until Dad comes home and he says he saw no one and to go to bed. I decide to sleep in my regular bedroom and I told my sister on what happened. Dad is making regular rounds in the house with a cup of coffee. We're all still and I think I can finally sleep. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's content, please do consider hitting that subscribe button, and if you enjoyed the content even more, I would consider watching my other Reddit video. And yeah, goodbye.